Well, this is part 2 of our series on an introduction to gCADPlus in the metric environment, and we left you at this point where we had placed a plant symbol and we'd drawn a simple wall. What I'm going to do now is change my background color to white to make it a little easier to see. So we want to develop this design, and we're imagining that this is a very small courtyard enclosed perhaps by 2 walls of a dwelling. So we'd like to close it off. So we'll pick draw a line. I want to pick up accurately the end of the wall, so I'll use entity snap, and polar is on, so I can move down here and move to the vertical position. I'll go just past the end of the wall and then exit from there. Then I'll right click and repeat the command. This time I want to pick up that endpoint there and go across. So I'll right click and go to snap overrides and pick endpoint in that way. So I've found it. So now I can track across here, making sure that I wait for the cursor to snap to that horizontal position. So now we have the border of this space. Well, let's trim off these lines. So we can modify and we can fillet those 2 lines. It'll have a radius, fillet radius of 0. So if we pick the 2 lines, that squares things off. Let's imagine, in fact, that that's the path that runs around the dwelling. So we might want to offset this line here and this line by the nominal path distance. So we'll say modify, and we will offset, right click, click on through point, click back on distance, and give us 900. And now which side? We're going to offset that side, and we'll pick this one here and exit from there. And again we can right click and pick up the fillet option and fillet. So let's imagine now this is the path around a building to my right, and underneath this is the courtyard that we are working with. And we perhaps, when thinking about the design, we might want to have an area with some seating, perhaps a path leading to it. The path might come from this area, so we want to put some sort of rectangle down. So draw rectangle, just say we'd need a rectangle, maybe something like that, positioned about here. We just drop the rectangle in by clicking and clicking. But if we know from our past work that a rectangle of about 4,000 by 4,500 millimeters, 4 meters by 4.5, we can just adjust on the fly using this properties box. We can say the width will be 4,000 and the height 4,500, and there we have our potentially an outdoor entertaining area. We know that a space such as that has worked well for us in the past. Well, the next stage in our design work might be to link this area to the path around the building, and to do that I'm going to start the line command. I'll just escape that at the moment. If I right click, if I've just used the command, it will pop up, so I can say repeat the line command, and I can come across to this option which is called nearest, and I don't want a path coming from the building and meeting the exact midpoint. I'd like to have it about 1/3 the way up. So I'll click, and can you see, if we zoom in a bit, the beginning of that line is locked firmly onto the rectangle that defines the outdoor area. And we'll type a distance of, let's say, 1 meter. We'll head in that direction. What we might do now is come at an angle. We don't want too many sharp corners in landscape design work, so let's go 1500. I'm typing distances in now because your construction team would prefer to work with distances such as that, and then I can right click, come to snap overrides, and come to perpendicular, and we've put 3 line segments in denoting the middle of the path. I'll select them all and I'll join them together. Now we want to offset those so that we get our path, and to do that, modify and offset. Most of these commands can be activated by keyboard shortcuts if you wish, or I've been picking them from drop-down menus, but you can also get them from the floating toolbars. So we're going to select this object, we right-click and type in a distance. So we'll make the path 900 wide, so half that width will be 450. So we'll click there, pick the midline again and pick, and exit from there, and then we can select that midpoint. We don't need that central line. So here is our pathway leading to the space that we're going to put some sort of paving or indicative paving in there. So the garden area will be round here, underneath and near the wall, and back again. Well, let's imagine that what our client has asked for is a concept plan, and for that we probably don't need a symbol as detailed as this one, so let's delete it. So let's see if we can find in the gCADPlus environment some symbols that might be able to dress this concept up. Try going to Library and Plants and Groups, and you have a whole series of groups, compound symbols, clumps, and all sorts of things, a whole set with a light touch. But there's a sketchy metric symbol set here, and I'm going to insert those into this environment. And I'll zoom out a little. You can see it's quite a large group, and I'll pop it down, and there they are. Now I want to use some of these now in our design work. So I'll click it, it's a block, it's just one entity, and if I select it with the left button of the mouse and then select right click and pick explode, then all of these symbols are now available to us. We can simply click in them, drag them and position them wherever we want. But you might, for something like this, be interested in taking a group or two. So we could copy that group and pop that down. We're going to try and give some screening to the area. We want to leave it open so it's visible and attractive and interesting to new users. So we'll copy this one, and we can then maybe pick this one here and copy that one, pop it over there. These symbols can still be sized by right-clicking and picking scale and dynamically sizing them, like so. Or we can pop them down like so. See, can you see we're building up? Maybe we want to keep this little area here with low-growing species, so we'll do that, and then pop those down. Have we got any more here? Yeah, we've got another group here which we could drag across and put in that zone through there. So can you see we're starting to build up a concept plan, and I'll leave it to you to continue on with that. But remember that when we simply click the layout, everything that we've been doing automatically appears in that floating viewport. We'll need to deal in some way with putting a line across here, perhaps with a break in it to indicate. We might now start to dress up the paving area in here, or indicate that it's paved. To do that, we go Draw and Hatch, and I've got a hatch pattern loaded. We could have a vertical grid. We select the entity first, which is of course the rectangle, hit hit enter. And now we need to change the scale a bit, because I know from past experience that a density of 1400 is far too high. So we need to increase our scale. We'll just try 14. And we now need to get control of our mouse again and OK it. So then there's an indicator of some paving going in. We haven't put any text in, but we can change its colour if we wanted to. Just set some sort of paving colour. We could certainly change the scale. Let's double it, spread it out a little, and we're beginning to add some interest to the drawing. We haven't yet assigned any plant species or any text or any dimensions, but that's for the next little movie in this series.